Good morning. It is good to see everyone again. So let's take a moment to join together, aligning our hearts and our minds to the moment, to the activity of the next hour. Leaving outside the door the cares and concerns that have brought us here, the cares and concerns that have traveled with us through the past days and weeks. Leaving outside the door any anticipation of what might come next. So we take this moment to take a couple of deep breaths and just settle. Well, for this past week, the 23rd Psalm has been very present with me, and I've had occasion to consider the aspects of it at some length. And today, I hope to, in a cogent, intelligent manner, share with you some of the understandings that I have come to in the process of that. Now, it's important to emphasize that when I say sharing my understandings, that's exactly what I mean. Each one of us on the screen here, each one of us in our community, each one of us on the entirety of the planet has both the privilege and the responsibility of understanding the sacred writings we have to work with. Whether they be the Upanishads, or whether it be the Bhagavad Gita, or the Hindu Vedas, or the Judeo-Christian Bible, or the Course in Miracles, or the Way of Mastery, or any one of many, many other ways that Spirit has communicated itself to us so that we can develop an understanding of it. Each one of us will come to those sacred writings from the only place we can come to them, at the level of consciousness that we're at. Sometimes we might come to them as a kindergartner. Sometimes we might come to them as a fifth grader. Sometimes we might come to them as a high schooler, sometimes as a college student. At each level of where we are coming to them, they reveal more of themselves to us, giving a deeper understanding to us as we look into them, contemplate them, and seek understanding of them with an open heart. So I'm sharing with you my understanding that I've come to through this past week, and hopefully that will stimulate within you some reminders of your own understandings, or perhaps even lift your understanding a little bit higher. So we'll find out what's going to happen next just as soon as we get back from our chant. The 23rd Psalm comes, of course, from the Judeo-Christian sacred writings that we know as the Bible, specifically from the book of Psalms in the Old Testament. Psalms were really songs. Basically, the Psalms were the hymnal of the Israelites back when. They would go to their temples and synagogues, and as part of their worship service, they would sing these. This particular psalm is really one of incredible celebration. The images, and that's really what all sacred writing is about. It's about the images. It's about the pictures that it creates in our mind. And this psalm creates some very powerful images. He begins by saying, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures, or fields of soft grass. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake." and that is one picture complete in and of itself. Then he goes on to say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff give me comfort. And that again is a complete picture. The next two verses then, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And that again is a complete word picture or a complete idea. The first three verses and the last two verses seem to go together. The fourth kind of just be stuck in there in some way. So the first thing that I want to consider is when I look at this and it says, the Lord is my shepherd, just exactly who or what is this that I'm calling the Lord? And the answer for me is, it's the highest comprehension or the highest idea of the divine that I am capable of grasping in my understanding. Now, if I was a shepherd in the hills of Judea, probably my answer to that question would be Jehovah or Yahweh. If I were a Buddhist in a temple in Tibet, I might say, well, my idea of the Lord is the Buddha or Buddha consciousness. If I were a Muslim, it might be Allah. So for each one of us, it is incumbent upon each one of us to determine for ourselves, when we see the words the Lord, or we think the words the Lord, what specifically are we referring to? We're going to find out as we go along that it does not serve us particularly to be very nebulous in this. It doesn't serve us particularly to say, well, it's God. That is a very small word that has a million different meanings. A contemporary Christian would look at this and maybe say, the Lord is Jesus. None of these things are wrong. All of these things are right for the individual who is looking at these words and understanding them for themselves. But I really think it's important to nail that down clearly. And it may take some time to do that. It may take some time in meditation to say, reveal to me, when I think the words, the Lord, reveal to me what that means. What does that mean for me now? And it changes. What I thought was the Lord when I was 20 years old bears no relationship whatsoever to what my mental idea or concept is when I say those words to myself today. And hopefully that's the case. It should mature. It should expand as time goes on. The more familiar I become with deity, the more I understand of deity, the more these two little words, the Lord, should expand in my consciousness. So for our purposes today, when I look at the words, the Lord, what I think is divine mind, that infinite creative principle that is as near to me as breathing, as close as hands and feet. That energy, that divine, pure, holy, creative energy in which I live and move and have my being. The psalmist says, the Lord is my shepherd. That is both a declaration and a choice. A shepherd is, of course, a caretaker. I am free to choose in my life who I follow. And the way my life goes is usually a function of the quality of that choice. The end result of choosing the Lord as my shepherd, allowing that divine idea to be my guide, to be my caretaker, the end result of that is I shall not want. There's no reason for me to live in lack. There's no reason for me to live in need. There's no reason for me to live in concern. And what that looks like is, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. Now, of course, this is an agrarian type of mentality that wrote this, so these are the images that come up in the writer's mind. In 1943, there was a popular World War II memoir called God is My Co-Pilot. And there the idea was very similar in that the divine presence is with me in what I am doing. And because the divine presence is with me in what I am doing tends to unfold for me very smoothly. There's a thought of divine guidance. There's a thought of being able to channel a higher intelligence. Now, when I say channel, I don't mean going into a trance and speaking in the voice of. I mean connecting with the energy. Connecting with the energy of that which is for you, the Lord. When I am connected, and to be connected basically means to be in alignment with, yes? When I connect with the energy that is represented in my understanding of the Lord, then the guidance which makes my life look like lying down in green pastures or being beside still waters is available to me. And like I said, there is no wrong unless one has no idea. If one has no idea of what that energy that they're shooting to align with is, then it's going to be very difficult to line up with. We may remember back in the days of radio and television that you had to, with the television and the rabbit ears, you had to fiddle with those things and move them around and get them this way and that way before the picture would snap in clearly. If we don't have a clear idea of what that higher energy is that we want to connect with, then there's going to be a lot of distortion, a lot of static, and it's going to be difficult to do. It's also worth mentioning that when we make the declaration, the Lord is my shepherd, we are declaring that to be our primary relationship. And when our relationship with the Lord comes first, then the first three verses are the picture of how our life unfolds. The highest divine idea of which we're capable wants to be our guide, wants to be our support, wants to be our supply, wants to lead us into the green pastures, the fields of soft grass, wants to lead us beside the still water, wants to restore our soul. That is to say, wants us to be in a state of inner peace, wants us to be in a state of serenity. He leads me in the paths of righteousness. That is to say, right thinking, right activity. Generally speaking, a lot of folks, when they see the word righteousness, that's the first place their head goes, is righteous activity. Doing whatever their brain thinks righteous is. But it begins with thinking. Nothing ever happens prior to the thought, even though it may be instantaneous. If I'm going to reach over and pick up my coffee cup, the thought to do it is there first. The desire to do it is there first. So he's going to lead me in paths of righteous desires, or desires that are going to be of service to myself and to the world. He's going to lead me in the paths of right intentions. He's going to lead me in the paths of right thinking, so that when I do go to bring something into form, as simple as lifting my coffee cup, I do it from the correct place in my consciousness. Then we get to verse 4, and all of a sudden things take a very rapid shift. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff are a comfort to me. In 7 words, the valley of the shadow of death. He blows through the entire life experience. That's what the shadow of death is. It's the day-to-day lived experience in the world of fear, the world of sin, as much as I hate to use that word, the world of calamity, the world of chaos, the world of confusion, the world of polarity. The world where I'm going along as happy as a clam, and all of a sudden COVID comes along and turns my life upside down for 2.5 to 3 years. This is the valley of the shadow of death. This is how important it is in the overall scheme of things. 7 words. An entire planet full of chaos and calamity and confusion, and the psalmist deals with it in 7 words. In the overall scheme of things, spiritually speaking, that's how important it all is. So even though all of this is going on, I see a news brief. There's been an earthquake in Turkey, and 35,000 people are gone. I mean, that quick, 35,000 people have left the planet. There's the war in Ukraine that just seems to be, with us for the rest of our natural lives. 40 years ago, it was the war in Vietnam. 60 years ago, it was World War II. All of these things go on in the world of chaos, the world that is ruled by fear. And yet the psalmist says that even though I'm in this place of chaos and fear and turbulence and all this stuff, I have no reason to be fearful because I know that the divine presence is with me. This is one of the reasons why it's really helpful to get very clear on what we mean when we say, the Lord is my shepherd. Because if I'm thinking that this Lord who is my shepherd is off someplace, busy, right? Like my mother told me when I was a little kid. Now, Richard, God's running the universe. He doesn't have time for your little problems. Well, if that's the idea, that God's off running the universe someplace and doesn't have time for my problems, then it's going to be pretty darn hard for me to not fear. If I'm going to not fear, I have to have an idea that this presence is not just next to me, but is me, the truth of me, that higher part of me that we hear talked about, the higher self, the true self, that this little body that I'm in and eyes that I'm looking through and senses that I'm dealing with aren't necessarily aware of. I've got to become aware of that. The rod and the staff represent our spiritual practice, prayer and meditation, perhaps. I was thinking the other day, that's what the rod and the staff represent, prayer and meditation. Because when I'm in this world of chaos and I need a respite, prayer and meditation is where I'm going to go. Then another day I was looking at it, and I thought, well, maybe that's denial and affirmations. And the, for want of a better term, because I don't have a better term, new thought groups, unity, science of mind, divine science, those types of things, they deal a lot in denials and affirmations. One of the primary early writers in the New Thought movement was a woman named Emily Cady. In her book, Lessons in Truth, she had 4 core denials that she suggested people memorize. And then she had 4 core affirmations that she suggested people memorize. Here's a couple of her denials. 1. There is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence anywhere. Contrary to what may appear, it may appear that there's plenty of absence of these things, so the denial is denying that absence. 2nd, pain, sickness, poverty, old age, death cannot master me, for they are not real. That's a pretty big hunk of denial. When you're in pain, it can be pretty hard to say, wait a minute, this isn't real. So we need to be practicing these things, not just when we're in crisis, but we need to be practicing them all the time so that when we are in crisis, we have something to hold on to. We need to work with these ideas to integrate them into our way of thinking. In her affirmation, she says, God is life, love, intelligence, spirit, substance, all power, all knowledge, ever-present, principle, divine mind. All of these words capitalized, of course. And then again, I am a child or a manifestation of God. And in every moment, His life, love, wisdom, and power flow into and through me. I am one with God, and I am governed by His will. Two powerful affirmations, well worth memorizing. So sometimes the rod and the staff will be denials and affirmations. Sometimes the rod and the staff will simply be willingness and allowance. As I'm going through my day and something happens that I find to be, well, that is the little I, the ego personality complex, looks at and says, oh, that's unsatisfactory. Well, this is the beginning of a very slippery slope. As soon as I make that decision that something that appears to be out there is unsatisfactory, completely losing track of the point that what appears to be out there is originating in my thought before it can be out there. I look at it and I judge it and I declare it wrong. Now I'm setting myself up for a lot of grief because I'm creating resistance within my energy field, resistance within the body, resistance within the nervous system. And all I want to do is reject. All I want to do is get rid of. All I want to do is put out of my misery. So when I find myself in that kind of situation, the rod and the staff are a willingness and allowance. I have to soften. I have to recognize that I'm in judgment, that I'm in resistance, and I have to soften. And I have to be willing for what's so to be what's so. There's no greater act of futility than to look at what's so and say, you shouldn't be so. I have to be willing to allow what's so to be so if I'm going to move into a higher level of understanding and a better way of dealing with it. Then he talks about preparing the table in the presence of the enemies and anointing the head with oil and the cup running over. And again, these are images of abundance and supply in the presence of my enemies, regardless of what the appearance is. I look out in the world and I see all kinds of horrible things. Regardless of that, I know that the divine within me is preparing me to receive all of the good that's available for me. And my cup running over is a very beautiful image because there's just no end to it. Then he says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The dwelling in the house of the Lord idea takes us all the way back to the first verse. The Lord is my shepherd. I am in complete alignment with my highest ideal of divinity, and because I am in this alignment and I stay in this alignment, that is dwelling in the house of the Lord. Goodness and mercy following me all the days of my life. It isn't that I walk through the world and, goodness and mercy like a Japanese geisha are 10 paces behind. It's more like thinking in terms of the sun and having the sun at my back. And the rays of the sun are coming through me and radiating out into the world as I go through it. As I am aligned with the highest idea of deity that I can come up with, that idea is going to manifest itself in, as, and through me. So the divine idea, the highest one that I can grasp, is going to work through me and move out, providing goodness and mercy everywhere I go. In our closing prayer, our prayer of realization, the very last line of the prayer says, wherever I am, love is. Goodness and mercy goes with me. Goodness and mercy extend outward from me. And I dwell in this concept, this knowledge of the presence of the divine as who I am, as the truth of me. So when I get into crisis, I like to ask myself 3 reminder questions. The first question is, who is my shepherd? Who am I going to follow here? Am I going to follow fear? Am I going to follow concern? Am I going to follow chaos and confusion? Or am I going to come back into alignment with the highest idea that I know that's true? Somebody else might have a much higher idea than I'm capable of getting. But right now, I want to connect with the highest idea that I am capable of connecting with. So who is my shepherd? And once I have reconnected with that idea of who my shepherd is, then my next question is, where is the shepherd? Is the shepherd up there, out there someplace? Is the shepherd in Washington, D.C.? Is the shepherd in the capital of Florida, Tallahassee, where the governor lives? Where is the shepherd? And hopefully, the answer to that question is going to bring me to understand the shepherd is within me. The shepherd is the breath of life. I want to connect to that idea of the highest divinity that is part of me. And all of the divine writings point us there. Absolutely every single one of them. Doesn't matter how far back you go. Doesn't matter what's going to be coming down the pike in another 100 years. All of the sacred writings point us to exactly the same place. The divinity is within you. It is expressing as you. Then my third question is, when is the shepherd? Each of them is important. You can't really skip one. The last one really brings it into place. Because when is the shepherd? Is the Lord my shepherd yesterday, last week, last month? Maybe. But is that really relevant to what's going on now? And is the Lord my shepherd tomorrow, next week, next month? Maybe slant, hopefully. But is that relevant to what's happening right now? The time that I need the Lord to be my shepherd is right here, right now, when I'm in crisis. Or right here, right now, when I'm not in crisis. Because the more time I spend immersing myself in that idea that the Lord is my shepherd, and everything that rolls out from that, the more time I spend immersing myself in that idea, when my nervous system is calm, and I'm relaxed in my being, and my brain is not being bombarded with all this urgency. The more time I spend then, the more accessible it is going to be to me when I actually do find myself in need, when I do find myself in crisis, when I do find my attention captured by what's going on out there. And what's going on out there is incredibly seductive. It just wants to grab the attention and pull it right into that external picture and create within us all kinds of panic and concern. That's what it wants to do. So the more time I spend focused on the truth of my being and the Lord being my shepherd, when the time comes that I find myself caught up, it's easier to bring myself back. It's easier to pull myself back up. And this again is what all of the divine writings all of the divine teachings are trying to bring us to become conscious for a single moment that life and intelligence are purely spiritual. The Course in Miracles calls this the holy instant. And that whole, bazillion and 4 pages of book that constitutes in Course in Miracles, its entire purpose, every single word on every single page, is to bring us into the lived experience of that holy instant, where we are totally, completely, in absolute alignment with the highest idea. And in that alignment, then all of the promises of the 23rd Psalm are available to us and present with us. So let's take those thoughts with us as we go into our meditation. In the body of teaching that is known as the Way of Mastery, we're told that one of the first things Yeshua taught his disciples was to breathe. That always breathing comes first. Breathing deep into the belly, allowing the belly to expand and then contract. Just like watching a baby breathe. We know instinctively as babies, breathe deeply into the belly. It isn't until we are taught fear and concern and resistance that we begin to constrict that. So I breathe like a baby. If you've ever watched a dog or a cat in repose, their chest hardly moves at all, but their belly up and down, up and down. So I breathe deeply into my belly. In the book of Genesis, we're told that God breathed into mankind the breath of life and they became a living soul. Maybe that didn't happen just once. Maybe that happens every time. I mean, how do we know when life has left the body? It quits breathing, right? So if I want to connect with that divine essence, that highest idea of divinity that I can grasp, it behooves me to start with the breath. And just allow it to flow gently and deeply. I may think or hold the idea as I inhale, I am breathing the breath of God. Again, God representing that highest idea of divinity. And I might hold the idea as I exhale that God is breathing me. One of the ways that I come into alignment with that highest idea is to in the stillness rehearse in my mind the things that I know about it. I know that it is love. Everywhere I look, I am told that. The psalm that I just considered crystallizes that idea of the incredible love that the divine essence has for me, for all of us. We're told in the Psalms, we're told in the Course in Miracles, we're told in the Way of Mastery, we are God's delight. When I am in alignment with that highest idea, it delights in pouring itself forth into me. It can't do it yesterday. It can't do it tomorrow. It can only do it right now. As I focus my mind on the idea that the highest concept of deity that I'm capable of is love. Pure, consistent, unadulterated, unconditional love, care, concern for its creation. I know that God is light. A light that, in comparison, the sun is barely a candle. And that light, like the love, wants to express itself in, as, and through me. Express itself as green pastures. Express itself as still waters. Express itself as a fabulously successful business. Express itself as magnificent art. express itself as beautiful music. I know that God is supreme intelligence. And I know that that intelligence wants to work through me if I will allow it. Isn't it ironic that that which is all-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present, the power that creates universes, and wants to flow through me and express as me, will stand and wait for me to make the choice to allow it. I know that God is divine mind, the only mind there is. I know that God holds my being as an idea of love in her mind. What is there to fear? What is there to lack? I know that I am eternally held as a thought of love in the divine mind. And I know that you are eternally held as a thought of love in the divine mind. Because there's only one of us. Each experiencing ourselves as individual private aspects of that one. Notwithstanding, there's only the one. That which I ask for myself, I ask for everyone. That which I give to myself, I give to everyone. That which I give to anyone else, I give to myself. That which I withhold from anyone else, I withhold from myself. There's only one mind. We are all part of it. And we are cherished. In ways we can't even begin to imagine. So let us, as we go forth into the rest of this day and the rest of this week and the rest of this life, let us go forth in the determination to cherish ourselves. as much as our creative source cherishes us. And as you're ready, you can begin to come back into an awareness of the body and move around, stretch a little bit if you would like, and when you're ready, very gently open your eyes. The light that I am surrounds me. The love that I am enfolds me. The power that I am protects me. The presence that I am watches over me. Wherever I am, love is. And so it is. Thank you guys so much for coming out to play this morning. So hopefully I'll see you all in 2 weeks. In the meantime, I love you. I appreciate you. I bless you with the blessings of Christ, and I behold the light that you are. Namaste.